Good morning, comrades, and I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the National Office Bearers of COSATU to welcome all of you present here, the members of the media, the members of the Central Executive Committee of COSATU that are present, the leadership of the affiliates, joined by our tripartite alliance partners here, and greeting the workers at home and their families on this important International Day of Workers. This is what as COSATU this year have so fit to commemorate this day in a manner that we are doing, reaching out to workers in the country and across the world. At a time of a global pandemic, COVID-19, and the lockdown, which make it very impossible for us to gather as we normally do in our various provinces and our various rallies that we organize. But we want to wish the workers on this day well in the provinces that are going to have activities immediately after this May Day message by our President, Comrade Nzimande. We want to wish them a very good day and a successful events. We must say to the workers that whatever we do, as we are trying to do here, the pandemic is still very much with us, and in an endeavor to make sure that we protect and prevent the super spreading events, that's why we couldn't organize the large rallies. I want to take this opportunity to then welcome the guests present here and introduce the General Secretary of the Vanguard Party of the South African Working Class, Comrade Nzimande, the President of the African National Congress, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, the DSG of the African National Congress, Comrade Jasmine, the Deputy Chair of the South African Communist Party, Comrade Tulas, and the General Secretary of COSATU, the President of COSATU, and all of you, comrades, that I might not have seen, but I'm acknowledging all leaders and all workers that are watching and joining us in this celebration. We are now starting firmly with our program. It's going to be a very short program. It's 1.5 hours because we want to keep to the arrangements we've had with the media. Normally when we are in this room and we're having a CC and the President is chairing from this side, there is a timer that when your time is up, the clock will ring and then your mic will be switched off. So President of the ANC, you must know. If we think that your time is up, we will stand up, we will switch off the mic, as the ANC does to us, by the way. And they always do that, the ANC, when we are in their rallies, they switch off the mic. So, comrades, let's now call on the solidarity message by our Vanguard Party, the South African Communist Party, Comrade Nzimande. Yeah, but can you please stand up?
You think it's a disadvantage, my height. It's an advantage, Comrade Jesse, because we are closer to the ground.
Hands off, my General Secretary.
Program Director, the Vice President of COSATU, Comrade Mark Shingange, President of the ANC and the Republic, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, and the DSG of the ANC, Comrade Jesse Duarte, the President of COSATU, Comrade Zingiswalosi, the General Secretary, Comrade Beginjani, and all other national office bearers of COSATU, Comrade Tulas Nxesi, the Deputy National Chair of the South African Communist Party, all alliance leaders in the democratic movement, and special greetings to all the workers of our country and the workers of the world. This is the second International Workers' Day we celebrate under the global COVID-19 pandemic. That is why today we remember all those we have lost to the deadly virus, both in our country and globally, including worker and working class leaders. In South Africa, by the end of April 2021, the virus had killed over 54,000 people, including health and other frontline workers. The most immediate task and challenge, therefore, facing workers on this May Day and the progressive trade union movement, both locally and globally, is to intensify the battle against COVID-19 pandemic on all fronts. The development, production, and access to vaccines to all is the most immediate battleground, especially access for developing countries and its peoples. The single biggest obstacle to access to vaccines at the moment is what we refer to as vaccine imperialism. That is, the actions by big countries of Europe and North America and their pharmaceutical companies to keep most vaccines to themselves and draconian conditions they set in supplying vaccines to poor and developing countries. The demand by the big pharmaceutical companies for our country to set up an insurance scheme in case something goes wrong, thus not taking responsibility for the efficacy of their own vaccines, is an unjust demand. Today, we call for action by all progressive trade unions in our country to challenge the greed by these big pharmaceutical companies. That is why in this, which is our centenary year of the South African Communist Party, we say, put people before profits. The multinational corporations headquartered in the United States and Western Europe, with the backing of their governments, are driving vaccine imperialism by, amongst other things, buying more vaccines than they need. We need to rise against imperialism on all fronts, including the battle against COVID-19 itself as a front of struggle. We must struggle for vaccines as a right and not a commodity or a privilege. Another set of workers' struggles that the SACP pledges to support are the struggles against retrenchments and undermining of collective bargaining rights. It surely cannot be that the negative economic impact and the brand of COVID-19 must be carried by workers alone. Forging a wider progressive trade union unity in action to advance the common interests of the workers should include strengthening the fight against retrenchments. Let us not allow our belonging to different worker federations to stand in the way of joint actions against retrenchments. The SACP also calls upon our government to take the lead in ensuring that the dispute with public sector workers is not resolved through the courts, but by taking this matter back to the negotiating table. The SACP does not expect of our own government not to honor bargaining agreements with public sector workers. This also sets a very bad example for private capitalist bosses who think they can now embark on unilateral actions, thus undermining the collective bargaining system that South African workers fought so hard for. Sithi ke samankomanisa uhulumeni nenyunyana abaphindele etafuleni bayoxoxa lolu daba lwamaholo basebenza bakwahulumeni. Asingayi kufuna ukuyoxazulula lezi inkinga ezinkantolo. One of the biggest enemies of the working class in the current period is that of corruption, both in the public and private sectors. Yes, corruption is rife in the public sector, as it is being currently exposed by the Zondo Commission. Thanks to you, Comrade President Matamela Ramaphosa, for your very frank engagement at the Zondo Commission, giving us pride and restoring our confidence in the African National Congress. But corruption in the public sector is done together with corrupt elements in the private sector. On this day, we therefore call upon workers and all of our trade unions to close ranks and jointly intensify the struggle to fight the scourge of corruption. Workers and trade unions should also be asking themselves as to where were they as the state resources were being stolen through state capture networks. Never, as Nelson Mandela would have said, and never again, should workers be found wanting in not confronting state capture and all other forms of corruption. Today, as the SACP, we reiterate the fact that we welcome the latest decisions and actions taken by the ANC to deal with corruption and factionalism within its own ranks. The SACP, COSATU, and all the other democratic forces must unite in support of these decisive actions by the ANC. However, at the same time, we must remain vigilant that those who find themselves in a corner do not try to weaponize the struggle against corruption to manufacture lies and baseless allegations as part of their fight-back strategy. Such tactics are used in order to try and undermine the determination of the ANC to lead by example in implementing its own resolutions. The web of state capture and factional networks also thrive on the fake news, propaganda, and disinformation. They sometimes even use compromised media outlets, such as in print media, in order to spread fake news, and as part of smear campaigns against those who are in the forefront of fighting against corruption. The fight against corruption, we say today, must also be accompanied by the struggles to defend and deepen our democracy, by seeking to unite the widest possible sectors of our society to defend our gains and isolate and defeat all counter-revolutionary actions and attempts to steal our organizations for purposes of corruption. We should all say with one voice on this May Day, our alliance and our democracy are not for sale. Defending and protecting collective bargaining is part of defending our hard-won democratic gains. The working class also needs to intensify the fight against neoliberalism and its austerity agenda in the here and now, and seek to advance concrete economic policies that stand to benefit the workers and the poor of our country. This must be done at the same time as we struggle to dismantle the networks of state capture. Indeed, all of us as the Alliance, we support the economic reconstruction and recovery program as announced by the President. That should be the basis on which we move forward. This is what we mean, therefore, as the SACP when we say we fight two struggles on two fronts. The SACP calls upon and commits to join the workers of our country also in fighting the scourge against gender-based violence as part of deepening the struggle against oppression and exploitation based on gender. The SACP today joins COSATU in pledging our support for an ANC victory in the forthcoming local government elections. However, this is not a blank check. Firstly, we join the president of the ANC, as he said at the Zondo Commission, in saying that local government elections must be used by our people to flush out corrupt councillors. We support this. Similarly, as the SACP, we will not support imposed candidate councillors or those who are in ANC electoral lists through corrupt and fraudulent means, or who are imposed on communities. We call upon the ANC to ensure that electoral lists that are inclusive of its alliance partners and popular candidates in communities become a reality. The SACP also wishes on this day to strongly condemn actions by racist organizations such as Solidarity and AfriForum in opposing the International Solidarity Brigades of Cuban doctors and engineers here in South Africa. These racist organizations, relics of the apartheid past, were beneficiaries of a racist labor dispensation in our country that never allowed black people to train to become artisans and engineers. They still remain silent with continuing racism and patriarchy in many of South Africa's workplaces. Let workers of our country recommit themselves on this day to fight racism wherever it occurs, especially in our workplaces. However, to succeed as organized workers, as class-conscious workers, and as the Communist Party, we must consolidate and strengthen our unity. We must organize the unorganized into progressive trade unions and politically into our National Democratic Revolutionary Front, paying special attention to political education and recruitment of advanced cadres into the SACP in order to strengthen its vanguard character. The Communist Party reiterates its call for wider progressive trade union unity in action behind the common interests of workers. Let us defend the unity of the workers, the unity of the ANC, and the unity of our alliance. Let us unite to build the capacity of our state to transform society for the better. Let us defend and strengthen our state-owned enterprises so as to build a better economy. But we must learn lessons. We must not allow fake strengthening of state-owned enterprises so that they are looted. State-owned enterprises must be strengthened for a progressive economic policy, not for looting. Let the workers join a broader revolutionary front to go to the root of our problems and work to uproot the capitalist system, which actually is at the heart of the problems that we have. With those words, we say, Amandla.
Thank you, Comrade Blade. Workers needed that voice of the Communist Party. I'm sure nabaqashi bakuzwile. Noma beshiya kuma bargaining council bekhona. So baceba kuwe in future. Ukuthi xa sisaxoxisana bangabaleki bekhona. Mabahlale pha ku bargaining council. Bangashiyi bekhona. Basile basagijima sayobavimba sathula sibe sebavimela nawo judge ukuthi ayikho lento. But thank you very much for that voice of the vanguard to the workers. Thank you for the solidarity message on our important day. Now, comrades, we are calling the leader of the alliance, the African National Congress, to be represented by the president of the ANC. Sanga simbona lo country namhlanje siphethe lo ANC president uKhumbulo Ramaphosa.
Before you say too much.
Before I say too much, yes. You know.
I know you.
You know.
Program Director, Comrade Singange, President of COSATU, Comrade Zingi Swalosi, General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, Comrade Blade Nzimande, Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade J.C. Duarte, other leaders of the Alliance who are here with us, as in the ANC, the party, and indeed COSATU. And comrades and friends and workers of our country, and indeed workers of the world. This is the second Workers' Day that we commemorate under COVID conditions, a pandemic that has fundamentally changed the way we live, the way we work, and the way we meet in our various formations. On this day, we celebrate the workers of our country, workers who continue to toil to make our country work properly, to produce our food, to produce our products, to provide services of all sorts and manner to the people of our country. On this day, we salute you. This is a day for you to be with your families, your friends, your comrades. We are sorry that we are not able to meet in a rally type of situation, but it is a day on which we want you to remember the gains that you have won as the workers of our country, the progress that you have achieved in your conditions as workers, vis-a-vis what obtained in the past under apartheid rule. The democracy that you fought for and won has provided much better working conditions to you as the working people of our country. And for that we are grateful. But we will continue to work to improve your conditions of work, your living conditions, working together as an alliance. During this pandemic, the people of South Africa have shown tremendous courage in living under economic and social challenges that are posed by this pandemic that now prevents us from holding the celebratory rallies that we normally hold. South African workers have sacrificed a lot and have been severely impacted by this pandemic in terms of the loss of income, with their families or livelihoods being negatively affected. Frontline workers, such as medical personnel, the police, teachers, and other staff members in the public service, and workers in the retail, have put their lives on the line during the height of the pandemic to keep the country going. We salute these heroes and heroines of our country that have sacrificed their own lives so that we all can live. This has been the most challenging time that our country and its people have faced since the beginning of our democratic era. The leaders of the Alliance sitting here have shown the utmost unity throughout the COVID pandemic and have been able to give clear leadership to the country. And we are grateful to have leaders of great stature like these who've been able to analyze the situation in which we are and provide many solutions. The Alliance coordinated our response together with government and provided the leadership in a multi-pronged and coherent manner. Citizens largely conducted themselves admirably, and this behavior aided our efforts to contain the virus to a large extent. It is in times like these of great difficulty that the alliance between the ANC, the South African Communist Party, and COSATU must continue to show united leadership. Let us not allow ourselves to be diverted from the challenging tasks at hand. Let us deal with the matters that cause strife and division between us, but let us also be clear about addressing the needs of our people. A united alliance made of the People's Movement, the vanguard and the fighting force of workers, and a vibrant civic organization is still the best force to drive the national democratic revolution. It is certainly a strong force to lead our campaign against this pandemic, but also for economic recovery. Our people are still asked to maintain their vigilance and continue adhering to the known protocols of maintaining social distance, wearing a mask, and avoiding crowded spaces while we now get our vaccine program and campaign underway. Worker leaders must be exemplary in this regard. There have been a number of unforeseen delays in our vaccine program, and we have had to do much going forward. We had to pause the Johnson & Johnson Sisonke trial due to the reports of this vaccine being linked to incidents of blood clotting in the United States. No instances of blood clotting were detected or experienced in our own country during this trial period. Our country resumed the vaccination process on Wednesday, and with strengthened protocols to screen and to monitor for potential blood clots. In the interim, South Africa has increased our supplies, particularly vaccines that we are getting from Pfizer. We will soon begin vaccinating people who are over 60 and certain other designated categories of people with comorbidities and other high-risk groups in phase 2 of the vaccination rollout. So that work is underway. The rising number of COVID infections, the deaths and ongoing health emergency in India and looming crisis in Brazil make an urgent and highly visible case for developing countries to be given access to the means to produce vaccines themselves. Many developing countries have the capacity and will be able to manufacture their own vaccines much more quickly, much more effectively, efficiently, and much cheaper. South Africans in particular must be alive to the real risk of experiencing a third wave of COVID infections during winter. Workers of the world must unite to compel developed countries and these large pharmaceutical companies to display more social solidarity in addressing this pandemic. We call on COSATU and the rest of the mass democratic movement to intensify their efforts to join the progressive forces in our country and throughout the world, as COSATU has already done, to advocate for vaccine patents waiver. The best way in which to fight COVID-19 is to ensure that as many people as possible are indeed vaccinated as quickly as possible. This disease cares nothing for borders, economic, military, or other prowess. Developing countries must be made to internalize that hoarding of available vaccines and not waiving vaccine patents will lead to immense suffering and tremendous loss of human life. In the end, none of us is safe until all of us are safe. It is without a doubt true that COVID-19 put unforeseen and massive pressure on an already strained economic situation in our country. We have had to reprioritize our spending across a range of areas in order to fund social, medical, and other interventions to mitigate against the worst ravages of this pandemic. As is well known, South Africa was already in a very precarious economic situation even before the pandemic. The precarious economic situation that our country finds itself in is having a negative impact on our people as a whole, as the reprioritization of spending does in the end affect expenditure in a number of areas that affect our people's lives. This precarious economic situation has also had an impact on our ability to finalize a wage agreement with public servants. We do heed the call that we should do as much as possible to return to the bargaining table with a view of finding a solution. And we do heed your call as well, General Secretary Blade Nzimande of the South African Communist Party, that yes, we should return to the bargaining table and have thoroughgoing negotiations with Labour in this regard. The ANC-led government reaffirms its commitment to protecting collective bargaining and all other labor rights that many workers sacrifice so much for. This sentiment has been endorsed by Comrade Senzo Mchunu, who is the responsible minister in the public service, as recently as this week. COSATU a while ago proposed that certain public holidays and Election Day be declared non-trading holidays. They have motivated the reasons for this quite thoroughly and quite convincingly. Government has begun the process to amend the Public Holidays Act and will begin a series of public consultations, as we must, within the next few months. There is absolute
I didn't
agreement.
Get that. Could you try again?
It's when you use these gadgets. They talk back at you. I just hope it's not the CIA. There is absolute agreement that unemployment and the jobs bloodbath exacerbated by the pandemic are devastating. We must take drastic action to create sustainable jobs that make a meaningful difference to people's lives. COSATU has rightly raised a concern about the impact of reprioritization on the budget of the CCMA. We will work with COSATU to find solutions in this regard. Social partners, working mainly through NEDLAC, put together the elements of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. This plan, as we all know, sets out a series of actions aimed at fundamentally changing the economy of our country and the jobs market and making it more inclusive and more equitable. Some of these programs are beginning to show positive effects, such as the Presidential Employment Stimulus was established in response to the economic impact of COVID-19 and is the most rapid expansion of public employment in South Africa's history. The stimulus supports a range of programs, from expanding traditional public employment to protecting existing jobs and providing support for livelihoods. Over 650,000 opportunities have been supported by the stimulus from March 2021. This includes more than 300,000 education assistants who were placed in over 20,000 schools across South Africa. This has never been done in our country, that in a short space of time we're able to achieve such success. They have supported teachers in the classroom and contributed to COVID-19 safety protocols and maintenance of infrastructure while learning skills that will help them to succeed in the labor market. Funding has also been provided to protect vulnerable teaching posts. Income support is being provided to more than 125,000 workers in the early childhood development sector, whose livelihoods were disrupted by the pandemic. More than 50,000 opportunities have also been created in public employment programs in the environmental sector, natural resource management, fire protection, and the war on waste. Now, almost 2,000 artisans have also been hired by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to support water and energy efficiency, as well as facilities management and the Rural Bridges Program. The expansion of the Global Business Services Incentive has enabled the creation of 8,000 jobs, and these are still growing on an ongoing basis. More than 100,000 small-scale and subsistence farmers are being provided with input vouchers to expand their own production. And this, they have said they appreciate. Another pillar of the recovery plan is the increase in local production, and we are developing a number of master plans to create conducive conditions for industries to grow. These master plans focus on localization, development of small, medium enterprises, and also growing the local economy, and have also they've also been found in the following sectors. The sugar master plan is underway, poultry master plan is underway, and billions of rands have been invested in these since the inauguration of the master plans. In the clothing and textile and footwear and leather master plan has also unleashed a lot of investments measuring up to 500 million rand, where a number of our stores have also participated. The steel master plan has been finalized and presented to the Oversight Committee. This COVID pandemic has illustrated the enormous depth of human and wonderful stories of solidarity and patriotism amongst our people. At the same time, it has also shown depths of depravity and on the part of some of our compatriots. Those people, especially those charged with the positions of public trust, who used this pandemic to steal from the people and unjustly enrich themselves, must feel the full brunt of our law. Such misdeeds must not and will not go unpunished. In fact, no instance of criminality and corruption must go unaddressed. It is only when we adopt an attitude of zero tolerance in our ranks that we will make a lasting difference. Social ills such as substance abuse, gender-based violence, and femicide stalk our population. There needs to be further and in-depth study of the socio-economic causes of these ills, and we must refine our responses to go beyond just the judicial legal responses. The scourge of gender-based violence is an indictment on our people. It finds its roots in backward attitudes of patriarchy and chauvinism and must be eradicated in all its formations. We call on our structures to develop programs to educate citizens about rights and resources available to survivors of gender-based violence. Too often people stay in abusive situations as they are not aware of the resources that are available to them. Communities must be vocal about gender-based violence, as silence is often a contributing factor to such abuse. We must not protect perpetrators, whoever they may be. It is, in the end, our revolutionary duty to actively work to eradicate gender-based violence from our society. The ANC appreciates the ongoing support of COSATU and especially the renewed support for the forthcoming local government elections in October 2021. We will, as in the past, work together not only to develop the manifesto. We will work together not only to campaign together, but we will work together to select those who should become candidates on our lists. And this must be, as you have requested, must be a joint effort so that those who will in the end represent our communities must know that they do so on behalf of our communities. We must all work for a decisive victory for the ANC in these local government elections. We have heard the pleas of workers to improve the way the alliance functions. We've also heard the party with regard to improving the way the alliance functions, and we will and continue to work together to achieve this. Every process of change is painful, and we will encounter resistance, yes, along the way. In reconfiguring the alliance, we must put in place structures that will respond to the current challenges. Comrades, we have broad agreement on our immediate tasks, and the alliance must develop a common platform around these tasks. The first one is to unite, to renew, and build the alliance. And in the course of doing so, we should build our individual components of the alliance. We must renew the ANC and rebuild it. We must strengthen COSATU. We must work alongside with this SACP so as to strengthen the alliance overall. Secondly, we must promote continued adherence to all COVID-19 health protocols so that we can defeat this pandemic. Thirdly, we must mobilize all South Africans to get vaccinated. Fourthly, we must resolve the impasse with the public sector wage negotiations. And we must also mobilize and win the 2021 local government elections. On an overall basis, we must work together to ensure that there is economic recovery and reconstruction in our country. We will not succeed in providing effective leadership on any of these issues unless we unite and continue working together. I wish you all, the workers of our country, the happiest Workers' Day and a rest period at home with your families. I thank you.
No, I won't say much, Comrade President, because my president is going to say so on my behalf. I was going to say to you as a president of the ANC, ukubize lo president we country, udibana naye umtshelo ukuthi akunegotiate akumedia. Umtshelo ukuthi akudlalwa ngepublic sympathy. Yeah, ipublic ayizomnceda ukuresolve le impasse. Cela umbize lo president we country Comrade President khulume naye abizo senze umculo. Abizo uthini Thuntlas ufuna uphendula. Okay, thank you very much Comrade President of the ANC. Your time was more by 5 minutes. We'll see what we do with that. But we thank the message of solidarity from the African National Congress. We're now going to go to the pinnacle of our program, where we're going to receive the main message of COSATU to the workers by the first shop steward of the country, the President of the Federation, Comrade Zingizolos. Comrade President.
Thank you very much, Program Director, the First Deputy President of COSATU, Comrade Mike Shingange, Ndibulise umongameli we African National Congress, President Cyril Ramaphosa, the DSG of the ANC, Comrade Jesse Duarte, General Secretary of the party, Comrade Blade Nzimande, the Deputy Chair who is amongst us, Comrade Thulas Nxesi, the leadership of the Federation, the chairperson of this program, the First Deputy President Mike Shingange, and the General Secretary, fellow South Africans, and most importantly, the workers of our beloved land. Before we begin, allow me first, leadership, to acknowledge and mourn the loss of our leaders, our dear comrades who have departed, the General Secretaries of our unions, the late General Secretary of the National Union of Mine Workers, David Sipunzi, the late General Secretary of SAMU, Comrade Gwena Ramatlo, the former President and the late President of SAMU, President John Dlamini, and many workers and South Africans who have lost their lives, and we are paying our respect to you and the families who have gone through a very painful experiences in this past year. We are saying their families' losses are our losses too. If we are to honor their lives, let us intensify our struggle on behalf of the working class. Comrades, we are commemorating Workers' Day today. As the German-Polish Marxist revolutionary socialist Rosa Luxemburg consciously put it, and I quote, when she said, "As long as the struggle of the workers against the ruling class continues, May Day will be the yearly expression of our demands," close quote. Our labor is the source of all wealth and life. We honor the sacrifices, the struggles, and the contributions of millions of workers and their families, from the clothing of Salt River to the farms in Limpopo. We applaud the nurses of Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital and the teachers in the rural schools in Kibika, where learners lack decent sanitation. The police and security personnel who ensure that the safety and comfort of all, even at the cost of their own lives, in KwaMhlabu Yalingana. As ordinary workers who do the hard work and sometimes very indespicable task without due recognition and fair compensation for it. We salute you on this day. Comrades, this day is the day when we say thank you to you, the workers of our country. When we reflect on our victories and remobilize for our battles ahead. This is the day when we tell government and employers that as we, the Federation, we shall continue to fight the struggles of the working class. Comrades and fellow South Africans, the lives of workers remain tough, but there are also victories that we have achieved. During the past year, as a result of COSATU's interventions at NEDLEC, in Parliament and with government, we have released over 60 billion from the Unemployment Insurance Fund into the pockets of workers who have lost wages to ensure that they put food at the table of their families. This has helped more than 5 million workers. It has helped save jobs and keep companies open. It is the single largest injection cash into our economy. This is the largest contribution of workers to saving this economy. We have also ensured that the UIF retrenchment benefits have increased from 8 to 12 months. That maternity leave and retrenchment payouts were increased. Workers are now entitled to paid paternity and adoption leave. During the pandemic, we have ensured that all workers have the right to refuse dangerous work. Any employer who forces them to work without the necessary protection can be prosecuted. Workers who have been infected by the corona at work can claim now from the compensation fund. workers who are required to undergo quarantine can claim from the UIF. We have been able to force government and the banks to extend the loan guarantee scheme to help save companies. But we must say that we are disappointed that due to its excessive strict conditions, it has only distributed 18 billion. We put pressure on banks to provide relief for struggling consumers, though this was too little. Comrades, we have achieved an above inflation increase in the national minimum wage. Farm workers from the 1st of March this year, 2021, earn now the full national minimum wage of 20.69 rands an hour. Domestic workers will earn the full national minimum wage from early 2022. COSATU's ESCOM social compact has been agreed to by government and business. At its heart, it is an agreement that no ESCOM worker may be retrenched. And we're saying government must clean up the corruption and mismanagement that has brought ESCOM to its knees. As a federation, we're saying those who have looted at ESCOM must be arrested. ESCOM must also embrace a just transition that will see jobs being created, not destroyed. The economy needs reliable and affordable electricity if this economy is to recover. Comrades, COSATU played a leading role in developing the economic recovery plan. And key pillars of the economic recovery and reconstruction plan include the following. The ESCOM Social Compact, that is a central pillar of the economic recovery plan. A national buy local campaign that all of us as South Africans must buy local goods and not imports. This, when we do, will save and create thousands of jobs. This includes us as workers, business, and government. Comrades, there are no goods that we cannot produce as South Africa. A massive infrastructure program that has already secured 1.6 trillion for investment in roads, in electricity, in rail, in ports, water and agriculture. These will spur manufacturing and economic growth and will create jobs. COSATU overhauled the Public Investment Corporation Act to ensure that the PIC is forced to root out corruption and to account for how it invests in workers' pensions and insurance funds. And for the first time, workers are now represented on the PIC board. Comrades, while we have secured these and many other victories, we cannot afford as workers to rest on our laurels. The challenges that are facing workers are too many. President Ramaphosa and the leadership of the ANC, workers in their numbers, they voted for the African National Congress. Workers have ensured that the ANC was returned to office with a clear mandate to create jobs and deal with corruption. Workers are angry, they are hurt, and they are disappointed. We have seen government impose a 4-year wage freeze on public servants. These are the very same nurses, doctors, police, and teachers that we praise for saving us during this pandemic. Yet government honors them by abandoning a signed wage agreement and does not even have the courtesy to engage workers. The private sector employers, President, have taken heart from this and are joining the unholy attack on the constitutional right of workers to collective bargaining. This will cause untold labor market instability. Workers have a right to a living wage, and we will not allow government and employers to destroy collective bargaining. And the real reason why government's finances are in a crisis, it is because of politicians and their friends who have looted to a point of collapse. It is politicians and their friends and families who have destroyed our SOEs. It is business who have robbed SARS of billions. Now government wants to dump the bill for corruption on nurses who are earning 186,000 per annum. And as a federation, we are saying this is the height of immorality. If government wants to deal with government's budget crisis, then it must stop the looting of 150 billion every year from the state. It is time for that government showed the moral courage and banned politicians, their spouses and children from feasting off the public tenders. Those who steal must go to prison. And we have seen all of them lining up at the Zondo Commission. What we are calling for workers is to see them in locally produced orange overalls. President, unemployment has gone past 40%. Thousands face retrenchments, not only in the private sector, but also in the public sector. Key SOEs have collapsed, all others are collapsing. Thousands have lost their jobs at SA Express, at SAA, at SABC, and more are at risk in Denel, in Transnet, and elsewhere. PRASA has been stripped, but we do not see a plan by government to save it. We need a plan that will save our SOEs and their workers' jobs. And throwing workers into the unemployment queue is not a plan. Taxis are notorious for the abuse of rights of passengers and the labor rights of their drivers. It is time we intervene to bring sanity to the rule of law to this sector. Employers are allowed to retrench and only pay workers a week's pay per year served. And we are saying this must change. Our labor laws are too soft and need to be strengthened. Our labor and health inspectors are too few. They must be reinforced and moved from their comfortable offices to the workplaces where workers are abused every day. The Extension of Tenure Security Act was strengthened to protect farm workers and their families from evictions. Yet our government is failing to enforce this act. The National Credit Act was amended by Parliament to protect the essential possessions of workers from being repossessed. It needs to come into effect now. So it is to our eternal shame that millions of women and girls are subjected to horrific violence at home, in schools, in the public transport, and at work And we're asking, where are our fellow men? That is why COSATU is calling for Parliament to move faster and pass the 3 gender-based violence bills that are before it. Parliament and government needs to ratify Convention 190 on sexual harassment and violence in the workplace by no later than August 9. The entire world, as we have said and we have seen, has been held hostage by COVID-19. Great progress has been made in developing a vaccine that will save millions of lives. Yet, we have not even vaccinated 1% of South Africans. Not only are we far behind the world, but we are far behind in the continent. And this is threatening to collapse our tourism industry, as 95% of the world has placed severe travel restrictions upon our country, South Africa. This is a national tragedy, Mr. President. And we are calling and saying that all South Africans must receive their vaccination by December 2021. And we are pleased that majority of vaccines will be produced at Gqeberha. Comrades will be going to the local government elections in October. The unions of COSATU have reaffirmed the decision of our members to endorse the African National Congress and call upon workers to vote for it. This is not a blank check. Councillors who have looted must be removed. The African National Congress must fix local government and ensure basic services are delivered. Municipal workers who have been dismissed for exposing corruption must be reinstated. Municipal workers who have not been paid their salaries must receive what is due to them. Government must pass legislation to ensure that elections, workers, and freedom days are non-trading holidays. We're glad, President, because you spoke about this and you have promised us that this shall happen. Because workers should not be forced to choose between feeding their families and exercising their right to vote. Workers are disappointed, we must say, with the behavior of many ANC leaders. Now it is up to the ANC if it wants workers to continue to support it, because workers love the African National Congress, but their patience is not indefinite. So we're calling on the ANC to clean up the act at Luthuli House or face the consequences. And we are saying to workers, we must be careful not to be seduced by the promises of opposition parties. What is common to the opposition parties is their determination to destroy the hard-won rights of workers to a minimum wage, to being unionized, to work in safe conditions, and to a time off that we have fought so hardly for. So what is to be done? As a federation, we're calling on workers and the working class to unite. This is a big question that is directed to all employed people of this country. And we're asking, can we do anything about this situation when we are divided and when we are weak as labor? Can we really unite? The labor movement needs to first acknowledge that it is weak in South Africa. And if we are honest and acknowledge that we are weak, we will know what needs to be done. And to prove that indeed we are weak, we have 205 trade unions and 24 trade union federations that are registered with the Department of Labor in our country. Yet all these trade unions only organize about 27% of the workforce. And this means that about 73% of all workers in South Africa are unorganized. So we cannot, as workers, win any battle when we are divided, because you become a minority. Comrades, we should be having 73% of the workforce organized. And then we must be talking about how we're going to organize the remaining 27%. So let us unite our unions and organize the unorganized. Employers are crushing us. They are reversing our gains and replacing us with machines. Forget about what is written on your T-shirt. Forget about the logo that is on your T-shirt and its color. Because if we do not unite, we will only wear our different T-shirts when we go to the UIF to apply for the unemployment grant. If, as a trade union, you do not have a 50+1 threshold in a workplace, then you are not organized in that workplace. So there are almost 10 million workers that are unorganized in South Africa. So in recruiting, we need to deal with the structural economic changes that are also associated with the changing workplace organization and mode of work for us to successfully recruit. The workforce demographics composition has changed. It's more youthful and relatively better educated now. Some of this workforce has no direct sentimental attachment and experience to popular struggles. So unions should find ways of recruiting those young workers. At work, if you are not a member of a union, you cannot blame anyone when employers are abusing you. So let us stop outsourcing our responsibility as workers. Join a union and participate, or you perish. Fight corruption in the labor movement. Why are our unions fragmented and splintered? Why are they being put under administration by the Registrar of Labor? And the answer is that there is corruption. Corrupt organizations cannot wage and win struggles. Corrupt organizations breed corrupt leaders, and corrupt leaders sell out and compromise with employers. And the solution is to fight corruption inside our organizations. And if we continue to allow corruption in our unions, then we cannot fault those who are crushing us. We are not victims, but we are enablers if we continue in this path. Do not elect corrupt leaders, and do not allow your unions to be divided by corruption. Comrades, the labor movement needs to be sustainable. We can never fight employers who are also our funders. If a trade union has to fundraise to go for a strike, then that trade union is in big trouble. If you depend on your enemy for your existence, then you are in big trouble. So you unite and fight. As workers, we are on our own. We cannot outsource our responsibility. So what is happening to us happens across all economic sectors is a blatant provocation. And the solution to that is for us to unite and fight. Now, if the current challenges do not force us to unite and fight back against the austerity measures and the capitalist onslaught, we are then doomed as workers and we deserve our misery. So starting with the current deadlock in the public service wage negotiations, unions and social organizations should respond with militancy and programs of the must line. This means embarking on a mass picketing, going for sympathy strikes and solidarity rallies, embracing the widest sections of workers, both in the public and in the private sector. Comrades, trade unions need to unite with a range of mass formation organizing in students, women, religious groups, and youth to build and strengthen working class power in society. Permanent mobilization of working class and the poor through variety of their organization is necessary to build capacity and momentum against this working class onslaught. So let us also come out with alternatives. If we are unhappy with capitalism, what is the alternative economic model to stand up to and replace neoliberalism and the free market? We agree that it is socialism, but in theory, what does that mean? Practically, what needs to be done? Our state-owned entities are collapsing, as we have said. We agreed that they should not be privatized. But how do we fix them? So let us get talking as the working class about these alternative ideas. Local government elections in October, COSATU, as we've said in its special recent CC, has reaffirmed its support for the ANC. So it is up to our ally, the ANC, to determine the success of this upcoming campaign. The ANC government needs to intervene and resolve the issues that workers have raised, or else we will have a parallel campaign preparing for a massive strike. We have also made it clear that we support the right of the ANC to defend itself against ill discipline on the part of some of its members, those that are ill-disciplined. So we cannot afford to continue to pander to a small minority of comrades who have long abandoned the principle of collective leadership in favor of crass individualism that continues to harm the image of this glorious movement. Comrades, on this day of International Workers' Day, COSATU, your federation, recommits itself to solidarity with our fellow workers who are under attack in Palestine, in Swaziland, in Western Sahara, in Burma, and other parts of the world. We also salute the people of Cuba who continue to showcase what it means to be progressive. and not just progressive, but to be progressive internationalist. On behalf of the National Office Bearers and the Central Executive Committee of COSATU, I want to wish all workers in our country a successful International Workers' Day. Thank you very much.
Workers love the ANC.
You are abusing that love.
Well done. Not the government.
Thank you very much, Mungameli. Sibambe ngozo sibili. Sabuyela kakhulu on the message of the day. We say, indeed, long live the International Workers' Day. We are about to conclude. We want to take this opportunity and thank all our guests, the President of the ANC, the General Secretary of the party, Comrade Jasmine, DSG, Comrade Tulas. We thank workers at home who have tuned in. We are saying to you, let's continue with a well-deserved rest today, and also reminiscing on the road we have traveled and the challenges ahead. And let's get strengthened, because indeed, as we've just announced, the country is in for a massive strolling mass action unless the government sorts itself out and resolve the workers' issues. The Federation is in the process of mobilizing workers to go to that route. The members of the media, thank you very much for making this activity very successful. I'm sure we've proven ourselves also as COSATU that we can firstly stick to time allocated by yourself, but also the technical staff very capable to make sure that we don't have any glitches. We appreciate your presence, we appreciate your support for bringing this message to the public and to our workers. And we say to workers, let's meet now on the streets as we continue to celebrate. Amandla.
DSG?